Subscribe so we can reach 100 subscribers. The manga starts with a flashback of our main character, Yukito Kokonoe, being rejected by a girl. The girl that rejected him was his childhood friend, who he knew from kindergarten till now. Yukito clenched his fist and sprinted away in frustration. He started thinking that if the feelings she had for him weren't interest, then he will never understand it. The only thing he wanted at the time was to disappear. The girl shouted out to him, but he never looked back. On that day, he had something that destroyed him inside again. We now arrive at the present, where it is the first day at Shoyo High School. He is a first year in Class B. It is the day of the introductions, which will determine the difficulty of their school lives. A girl introduces herself as Sakurai and says they should have a get-together. The students are happy with that idea, while Yukito thinks of what kind of debut he should put on. Another girl introduces herself as Shikadu and says she likes bugs but gets nervous and says they should just forget it. Yukito thinks that she is the gloomy type. Their rankings were already decided, so he didn't think risking it would be worth it. That's because he considered himself the average, harmless, gloomy character. So, he decides to debut in a forgettable but easy-to-go-by way. The teacher calls his name, and he loudly shouts that he will be quitting school. All the students look at him in shock, surprised he would even say that. He thinks he messed up because they now think of him as the odd one out. But surprisingly, he doesn't blame them because that's exactly how he feels. The teacher asks him what happened, and he apologizes and tells her it just came out after he saw how unreasonable the world is. But he still couldn't just tell them to forget it. He normally introduces himself, telling everyone that he aims to be the gloomy guy who's always alone. He says he'll pretend to be asleep most of the time, so they should pretend like he doesn't exist. He also tells them that he does not mind being insulted or called gross by everyone. He apologizes because no one will even talk to him anyway. He looks at other students, and they nervously turn away and pretend they are busy with something. Despite that, he thinks that this was exactly what he wanted, for no one to talk to him. The teacher then worriedly tells him he shouldn't waste his entire school life like that, and she says she can lend him an ear if he wants. He thinks the teacher is too nice. He then tells her not to worry. She asks why, and he tells her not to worry because his school life isn't the only thing he wasted. She asks if there is something wrong with him because he was too realistic to the point of it being scary. She then tells him to just sit down, and she knows that he will be a problem child from now on. Yukito tells her that a modest guy like him can't be a problem. He looks to his right and sees a person barely holding in his laughter. The guy then bursts out laughing and tells him he's really funny. Yukito asks the guy if he was okay, because that was just a normal introduction, but the guy thinks otherwise. He tells him the year will be interesting with him around, and he says they should exchange contacts. Yukito asks if Tanaka is already calling him by his first name. The guy tells him he got his name wrong. He already introduced himself as Mihu Cookie. Yukito says he wasn't paying attention and asks him why he's even talking to the gloomiest guy like him. Cookie tells him he doesn't get that he's gloomy at all. He actually thinks he stands out the most. He tells him they should be friends anyway. Yukito thinks the guy probably wants him to be his errand boy. If he had a gloomy guy like him around, it would make him seem even more handsome. He thinks that he's evil, but he still would be easier to deal with than a poker face. Cookie says he feels like he is being badmouthed, but he hopes it's just his imagination. Yukito asks if he has to give him money. Cookie refuses and asks what even happened to him. They then exchange contacts, and he tells him he'll be in his care. He also asks if he's free after school. He asks what's going on. Then Sakurai, who is sitting behind them, says since they will be classmates, they should have a get-together with karaoke. She asks if he'll be coming along. He thinks they're already at the point where they gather classmate. He labels her the sunniest of the sunny characters and thinks she might be his greatest rival yet. He thinks they'll have to do this eventually, so he calls her Sunny Girl and then asks if he could call her Elizabeth because she's a queen. She asks him why call her that because she already introduced herself. He tells her he couldn't believe she invited him. She says they talked it out with the group and they didn't think he was a weird guy. She tells him at that point they had already gathered a lot of people. He looks at the people they gathered for a second. Then he calls her Elizabeth again and thanks her for the invitation, but he already has something planned. She understands and tells him maybe next time, because there is nothing she could do about it. He responds with he'll be looking forward to that. He really was busy and he wasn't lying, because he thinks his mother will be home late, so he had to be the one to make dinner. But above all, he thinks it would be a bad idea to hang out with the girls, Suzurikawa Hinagi, who was in a relationship, and Kimishiro Shirori, who is the most innocent girl he ever met. He thinks they looked uncomfortable with him around. When he saw the list of names of their class, he promised himself not to involve himself with them, yet they were already in this situation on the first day. The scene switches to after the group went to karaoke. One of the girls asks what's up with Yukito, and a guy tells her that he is bad news, because who would even declare they're quitting school on the first day? Cookie tells the guy to not worry about it because he was an interesting dude. The guy asks if he knew anything about him, and he answers the guy that they played basketball back in middle school, but he doubted that he would even remember that. Shirori asks if they happened to have a match with Yukito back in middle school, and he tells her that they did. He asks if she knows about him, and she tells him she does, thanks to Yukito. He asks if she knows the reason he didn't show up at the tournament. She apologizes and tells him she can't talk about that. Sakurai asks if they were good friends, but she tells her it was actually the opposite, because he hates her. She started having an interest in him back in the summer of their second year. She tells her their basketball club back in the day was not that committed in its activities. Everyone was just having their own fun, but there was one person who was different. As if he was possessed, he kept practicing and honing his skills, as if something motivated him to do so. It was like he was trying to forget something. His actions motivated the passion never seen in the club before. While he was there, the club could have aimed for a higher spot in the tournament. He changed the entire club, and she thought he was amazing. He was able to change people because of his behavior, but he never took care of himself, so she never took her eyes off him. At the time, she was still a kid, and she couldn't be honest with herself, so she held back her feelings and confessed to him when she was confused. Thanks to that, she betrayed him in the worst way. And then, she took everything from him. Yukito turned out the way he was now. Then both girls say it was because of them. They both look at each other in surprise. Hinagi says she must have been hearing things and asks about her. She tells her that was supposed to be her line and asks what her deal is with Yukito. Sakurai asks her friend, who didn't know anything, if the place just suddenly turned into an arena. She tells her maybe it had something to do with them being from the same middle school. Hinagi tells Shirori that she was his childhood friend. She asks if she was the reason why he turned out like he is, and she agrees. She then asks who she was and what she did to Yukito. She tries to explain to her, but the argument is stopped by Sakurai. She tells them this is a get-together, so they should get along with each other. The atmosphere just turned awkward. Hinagi then proceeded to leave the place, and Shirori also apologizes to everyone and says she is going as well. After they left, the mood remained awkward for a while. One of the boys asks what they'll do. Then he suggests they should sing something, and they start arguing over who will sing. The scene switches to Yukito's house. His sister asks him to explain exactly why he gave that introduction. The situation is like a courtroom, with her sister Yuri, who was in a very bad mood as the judge and him as the defendant, and it looked like they would be going straight into the executions without a chance to appeal. Subscribe, and if this video gets 200 likes, I'll make a part 2. Thanks for watching.